Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of our legislative interview series. Today, I am happy to be joined by Andrew Blackburn, joining us from the Raleigh Chamber. So, Andrew, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate your time and
Yeah,
for being here.
yeah. Thanks for asking me on.
Yeah, so wanted to talk to you a little bit about the things that you've been working on, what your organization has been working on. I, for one, since taking this job about 8 months ago, have been super grateful to you personally, but also to the chamber because the events that you put on have um, been awesome to attend, just in terms of networking, in terms of the information that we receive. I've actually had a couple people that I've met at Raleigh Chamber events become interview guests here, so it's kind of come full circle. But
Awesome.
um, how about some of the projects that you worked on in 2023 that have stood out to you that you're very proud of, that you think have made an impact throughout Raleigh?
Yeah, that's I appreciate the question. I'm gonna cheat at it though a little bit and say I'm gonna push back because I work in government affairs. I'll push back to the 2022 elections, which is kind of how I kind of stagger my work and say we're incredibly happy with the results of the Raleigh Parks bond in 2022, and then the Wake County Public School System school construction bond that was in 2022, which RRAR was a huge supporter of it. Not just being on the planning committee to help make it happen, help get the campaign up in front of voters, but just in terms of advocating for schools in general. So thanks to y'all for that. And that was a great way for us to kind of catapult into the year of 2023. And this year has been a whole bunch of stuff. Um, Medicaid expansion is probably right at the top of our list. That was something that had been out in the world for a very long time. North Carolina had not expanded Medicaid I mean, ever, I guess. And Senator Berger said basically, I'm willing to consider it. There's a long way to go, but let's get off the ground. And the Raleigh Chamber, along with a lot of other local chambers, very quickly said this is a business priority for us, and this is a health priority for the region. And we got to work, and that was difficult because that was not something. Healthcare policy is not something that we had done a lot of work in previously. But we said that this is a game changer. Wake County stands to have about 60,000 people join the rules of Medicaid and have better health outcomes. It's going to be great for our local hospital systems because they now have more resources to treat people that need it the most and have the least ability to pay for it. And it's good for just when you think about the future of the region, knowing that we're taking care of our people was really important to us. So we were not the first local chamber to advocate for expansion, but we were one of the first large ones, and but we weren't the only ones. We were able to partner with other chambers across the state and say this is a local business priority, which was great. Definitely a big part of helping move the needle, I think, was showing the business community was behind it. The other big one that I'll highlight is the Carolina Hurricanes signing their 20-year extension here at PNC Arena. That wasn't something that I personally worked on, but our president and CEO, Adrian Cole, excuse me, our CEO, not our president. I think he's the president and CEO. I should know that. Our fearless leader for sure played a huge part behind the scenes, along with our economic development department, saying this is obviously huge for the region, not in terms of just the local pride of the Hurricanes and how great they've been playing, but because it is an economic vitality thing. Having a NHL team in North Carolina is huge for our region locally, but then the state as a whole. It's also just a point of livability, having entertainment options for people. I mean, the Caniacs are second to none, and that was something that was fun for me to get to be a very small part of and see the chamber push forward and help get to the finish line because there's a lot of moving pieces. Everyone had to come to agreement on that. And like anything in government affairs, not everyone got what they wanted, but everyone compromised and kind of came to a deal that worked for them. So lots of small things in the mix around all of that, but those are the big ones that we're really excited about from the last year.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, I think you're right in terms of the Caniacs too. I think they led the league in attendance
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
And I learned that, I think, at one of your chamber events when I heard Mayor Baldwin speak. So there you go. But I think I think you made a good point there in terms of livability and things that make Raleigh more livable and make Raleigh more attractive. So I guess I want to transition to seeing Raleigh continue to grow. Why do you think Raleigh is and will continue to be such an attractive place for people to move to, whether it be from up north or whether it be from other surrounding areas? They want a little bit more buzz, more action. They say, okay, we're going to move from here to go to Raleigh. What do you look for with that, and how do you see Raleigh to grow?
Yeah, so that's um I mean that's the secret sauce that I think everyone's trying to figure out. We just had the Boston Chamber of Commerce in town this week asking the same questions, which is pretty impressive when Boston wants to know what we're doing right.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's a culmination of a bunch of things. First is the environment, right? It's not that far to the beach, not that far to the mountains. It's very easy to get up and down the eastern seaboard from Raleigh and from the Triangle region. We've got four seasons, which is great. A lot of people really enjoy having a winter, summer, spring, fall. Um, I think overall, when you think about environmental change, that the Triangle region is in a really great place. That other places have to worry about sea level rise, or they have to worry about water resources, and we are certainly not immune from any of that, but are really well positioned and are planning smartly for the future in ways that I think are going to pay dividends just long after we're gone. We've got great education systems, whether that's our K through 12 public schools, which are amazing, all the way through all the major universities that we have here, the HBCUs. Wake Tech Community College is an incredible asset that I've only gotten to appreciate at my time at the chamber, and the work they do helping people with upward mobility has
yeah,
been great. I think we've also got stuff like just quality of life. We just talked about the hurricanes. We've got the North Carolina Museum of Art here. We've got the History Museum, Natural Sciences Museum. There's stuff for everyone to do, no matter where they come from, how old they are, what their abilities are, what their cares are. We've got something going on. I think that that's really important. Livability is really high. It's tough. We've been talking about affordability long before I came on the scene, and that's something I'm sure we'll struggle with moving forward. But I think we've got leaders who understand the issue and want to provide solutions, and I think we're seeing some really interesting tools activated to kind of address that issue. Um, and then, like I think we do have special sauce. I think there's something about people in the Triangle. They're friendly. I think they appreciate what they're doing here. I think they know that they've got something special, and I think everyone's kind of working to continue that. I think there's this just subconscious desire to work together as a region and make things better. You're not seeing Raleigh and Durham fight over resources or territory or who's better at that. It's kind of if they succeed, we succeed, and vice versa. And I think that there are lots of parts of the country that don't necessarily have that. There's a lot more antagonistic perspectives with your neighbors. And what instead we're doing is saying, if Chatham County or Franklin County have something cool going on, how can we help them achieve that? Because that's gonna come back to us too.
yeah. I think you make a great point there, and I think that Raleigh has this charm about it too at this time, to where it's growing, and like people like the director of the Chamber of Commerce from Boston can recognize that, but it still has that small town feel to it. And I think that
Yeah.
it gives you the best of both worlds. I, for one, appreciate it from coming from New York and being in Raleigh and having everything that Raleigh can offer to a growing family like I have. So it is super important for me that it continues to grow. But I think you make a good point. And I will say this: in my time as government affairs director here, my work with the Raleigh City Council has been very pleasant in terms of working on housing initiatives, and what you mentioned, affordability, availability. Those things are important to us, obviously, but they seem to be of importance to the council as well. So that's good for us to see, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, so I want to give you an opportunity. I don't know how much you've got planned out yet for you personally and your organization, but what does 2024 look like? I know on my end, I'm sort of preparing, scheduling events, getting ready for RRAR to go into their 100th year.
Wow.
But for you, what does that look like, and what's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, it starts with continuing partnerships, right? We've got a great partnership with RAR, which is amazing. I'm excited to see that continue along with other partners, whether that's home builders, whether that's different advocacy groups, whether that's other chambers in the region. Obviously, business community is going to be huge. Deepening those connections, having even more information sharing is going to be important, but that's kind of vague, and everyone's working on that. We've got a ton of events coming up too. We try really hard at the Raleigh Chamber to make sure that we do a range of events on a bunch of different topics to allow the community to meet and engage with our elected officials and talk about issues that drive us forward. So in early February, we're going to be doing something where we're going to be talking about data from a analysis that we did with the business community to talk about how are their needs shifting. What does that look like? And this is a local survey that we do every couple of years, and we say what's shifting, how can we get ahead of that, how can we move that forward. And I think that gives us a really good perspective on what to expect coming forward. In April, we're going to be going to Atlanta, Georgia. We're taking 175 people on our inner city visit and leadership conference. And we're going to Atlanta and we're asking, what are you doing right? What do you wish you'd done different? What ideas can we learn about and bring back? And that's not necessarily to say we're going to pick this up and drop it here, because it doesn't work that way. But for example, they just built a brand new sports stadium entertainment district for the Atlanta Braves. It's called the Battery. And as their Hurricanes are staying for another 20 years, and there's talk about developing around PNC Arena, how can we make sure that that's an asset that everyone can participate in, be a part of, and maximize it for the community? Um, I opened with bond campaigns, and surprise, surprise, bond campaigns are going to be coming back around. We're expecting the city and the county to do their own bond campaigns. We're not sure what they're going to be yet, but schools are still a need. Parks are still a need. Green space is still a need. And transit and transportation continue to be a priority as we grow, as more people come here. How can we most efficiently move them forward? And the last thing I'll say is, speaking of transit and transportation, Raleigh is about to start construction on its first bus rapid transit lane from downtown going out to East Raleigh and beyond. And this is a transformative project, not just for Raleigh, but for the region, as we look at dedicated rapid mass transit service. How are we looking at land use around that? How are we making sure that that is as best we possibly can to be successful, to protect the people already here, but when changes happen, make sure everyone can be a part of that, and that it really propel us into a new way of thinking as we move from a small city into a big city that we're operating as such.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's hopeful to hear. I've had the pleasure of going to Atlanta for that to see an Atlanta Braves game, and that little city they've built around the stadium is inspirational to any other organization. So that, I think, having the Hurricanes here and having those options, that would be pretty neat for the community moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's all great stuff. I wanted to leave you with one more question. So for those of you that don't know, Andrew had my position with RRAR. He has grown and elevated his career, and it's always great to hear from you and to learn from you. So I appreciate everything you've done for me. But I want to get your perspective on the importance of advocacy and making your voice heard at the local and the state level. I know you've seen a lot of that, and just what your take is on that and how you think that can be beneficial for people like our realtors to hear.
Yeah, that's really, really important, and something I've always admired about RAR and realtor organizations, and the realtors themselves as professionals, is how seriously you all take advocacy. That's why I was really excited to get to join the Raleigh Chamber and continue to be partners with you on that. And that takes all shapes and forms, right? Some realtors run for office. Some realtors join your government affairs committees and share what they're hearing in the community and what their concerns and hopes and wants and needs are. And that's super important, because as staff for groups that take advocacy seriously, there's only so many places we can be at any one given time, only so many things that we can dig into or listen out for. And so having a really engaged membership is key to the organization being successful when it goes to bat on things that it cares about. Whether that is something small or and local or large at the state level or even up at the federal level with NAR for you all, it's really important to have members that are plugged in and engaged. Something I'm always encouraging people to do is to seek boards and commissions to be appointed to or get themselves placed in. There is a shortage of people who are willing to step into formal roles under town councils and city councils to handle more of the nuances of government and wrestle with the hard questions before it goes to a final vote. Because if we can have, from my case, the business community as a whole, and for RAR's case, realtors as professionals stepping into those roles, you can take those concepts and ideas and advance them without necessarily having to go and lobby somewhere or do a big advocacy campaign. You can instead have someone helping shape that conversation. And I think that that's something that realtors are already really good at. Realtors have to eat what they kill. They have to go out into the community and be on the lookout for information and figure out how does this tie into everything else I know. And if they can step into more of those roles, I think that they can help, push the course of the community, which is really important.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight and I agree completely. So with that, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. We really appreciate your insight and for your partnership on many of the things that you've outlined. And I look forward to more work together next year. But really, thank you for doing this and taking time out of your day, Andrew. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's great to work with y'all and everything going on here locally.
Thanks. Have a good one.